Hi, everybody. Woohoo! I'm coming on before 11 o'clock. Let's make sure everything is working. Sometimes it takes a minute. Yep, there it goes. Okay. See if everything is working. Yep. All right. So, yeah, happy Pentecost, right? Happy Pentecost. Whitsuntide. We're going to be in Whitsuntide right now, which I just love this time of year because absolutely in Richard's case, we have seen God moving, God in the Holy Spirit, right? God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. This is God the Holy Ghost is absolutely moving throughout these years. People always ask, how did you ever find out who Nidal Baem was? Because he was wearing a mask and it was in the CCTV footage. And the military said, oh, he's just a nobody. He's just a nobody. Wouldn't tell us who he was. And we did a lot of investigation to find out who he was and called him, and absolutely he admitted to it. And so this is a very, very big part of the case that the military, the leadership really revealed themselves on, including the FBI, that they were intentionally covering up the murder of our son. That that this was something really big, and that was in October of 2020. So this is, and this is June. We're on June 8th, 2025. So we're almost 5 years in, right? From this huge truth that Nidal Baem couldn't help it. He couldn't help it. He had to tell the cashier what was going on, that she could take down the flyers, that he was dead, really that he was dismembered because they were looking in 5 different places for his remains, and that they found him. And we called the Department of State right away, and they confirmed that the FBI were in Juarez, Mexico, looking for Richard's remains. And we have other corroborating DHS, DES. We have other corroborating officers and information on that. And so, of course, they have Richard's remains. And why don't they want to give it to us? Because it absolutely is evidence of his murder. So the brutality of his murder, and they did admit January 24th, 2025, just this year, just 4 days after President Trump took office, that Richard's murder was, quote, in the line of duty, close quote. So we worked very hard to get the declaration of death that came April 24th, 2024. And then the in the line of duty came 4 days after President Trump took office, because this really corroborates and confirms that Richard's murder was a retaliation for being a whistleblower. And we know that he was a whistleblower because we have all kinds of evidence and witness testimony that says so. This is really important because they didn't grab onto that information when it came out, when a witness said it out loud, and then we had another soldier say it out loud, and then of course all the other evidence. They didn't grab onto it, which absolutely revealed again their criminal intention to obstruct justice, to tamper with evidence, to retaliate against whistleblowers, um, intimidate witnesses. Absolutely, it's all happened in this case. So to see, uh, General Taylor try to make an interview statement or whatever, it's so disingenuous. Um, it's so disingenuous. The same thing with Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe is disingenuous. Um, you know, the same thing with Major General Eisenhower. All of them have been shown and revealed to be enemies of this country, absolutely enemies of this country. I mean, treasonous, and the soldiers know it. That's why we had millions of views on those posts. On those posts is where we got the millions of views, because the soldiers know it. There's so many victims, y'all. And so Richard's case absolutely is dear to their heart. They're focusing on it. They want to know if there's going to be justice, because how far we've come, how far we've come. It's amazing to them. I cannot tell you the wonderful communications that we have gotten. They're just, praying. They're all praying that we get justice, because we've come so far in exposing these bad actors that call themselves generals. They need to be taken out of those uniforms. And these are the generals, and I can tell you this right now, that Sean Bernabe absolutely was engaged in with Mealy. Mealy was mutinous. He was absolutely leading the mutinous charge against President Trump. It was very clear at the time, during his time during the first Trump administration, and he was treasonous because he called the CCP, and the CCP, and said he was going to really be like a spy. If anything was ordered, that he would call him up, and he would be the first to know. He would absolutely know what's coming from our president of the United States, which is absolutely treason. And, you kind of even see this with the riots. Everybody is tuned in, not everybody, but a lot of people are tuned in with what's going on in San Francisco. No, Los Angeles. Sorry, Los Angeles. But it could seep over. It could seep over um, in Los Angeles, that there are riots, and these riots. To me, my opinion, and I'm allowed to have my opinion, I think that they are absolutely funded, that are absolutely orchestrated, that they are absolutely a diversion, again, like the Walmart mass shooting. They want you to take your eyes off of Fort Bliss, take your eyes off of El Paso, take your eyes off of the investigations that are going on in Trump's second administration. And so they're diverting your attention to Los Angeles, where they have control of, officials, so that they could pull this off. Just like in El Paso, they had Michael Mayella, they had DA Jaime Esparza, they had the unqualified chief um, uh, chief medical officer Ortiz. They had the El Paso Magistrate Court with all compromised individuals that are supposed to be judges, but they're not. They're just imposters, because the law requires that they be elected if they are to sit on that court, and none of them are elected. They're just all imposters. They've all been imposters. That's what it is, and so they're absolutely compromised. And and it's exactly what we have said. So right now in El Paso, because of uh, because of all of that being so exposed, right? All of that being so exposed, and all eyes are on um, that judicial law enforcement system there in El Paso. They had to do the diversion not in Sila Vista, right? Sila Vista Mall or the Walmart, but they moved it to Los Angeles. And they're just they have their group, and it's because I went to January 6th, so this is very interesting. Um, Comparison to January 6th. Um, and altogether, they are, the media's is framing the narrative, a false narrative, like it's not that violent, or blah, blah, blah. And, and it's very violent, anything like their destruction and just their, here they are living in our country. A lot of them are illegally here, so they're criminals, and they're being funded by the taxpayer, and they're being so mean. They're being so led and so mean and not appreciative and not humble, right? I mean, absolutely mean. I don't know how else to say it. So what else are they doing? What are they doing in the dark? If they're going to do this, be so ungrateful for getting everything paid for, um, they could never do this in Mexico, just in Chihuahua, they go over there. They're so exploited because the government is just so messed up. They don't have the beautiful constitution like we do. They don't have the beautiful Texas constitution like we do that restrains some of this corruption. Um, and you go over, and so you think it's bad here. It's really bad over there. In May alone, they had 80 executions by like cartel style. I don't want to say it's by the cartel. It's just it wasn't lawful. It wasn't lawful executions. These were absolutely drive-by, terrible setup frames, killings, and and you have police there. Um, just quitting. They're just quitting. You don't have security right now in Mexico. And most of these individuals that are being so mean in Los Angeles, sorry, in Angeles, I've been doing some research on Las Vegas, on Los Angeles. Um, it's very, they're just so mean, so ungrateful, not humble, like, geez, I just have a different law order, I guess. Like, if someone's giving me something and I'm living here illegally and they're letting me leave, because in California, they're just letting them do that and letting them exploit the taxpayers. Um, and then if they have to go to work, then they're like, well, you have to kiss our hands now because we're working in your country. Well, you're here illegally and you're getting all this stuff. You should work. I mean, we all need to work, right? We all need to work. I mean, the Bible says you don't work, you don't eat, right? You don't work, you don't eat. There's no freeloading in the Bible. There's no freeloading with God. You know, it's like, no, uh, I mean, he's all merciful, right? But no, he wants you to work. No lazy bones in the Bible. You need to work. And so it's not like um they can judge Americans, not that Americans, we don't have any issues that we need to work on. Every country has issues we need to work on, but they're here illegally. So why are they even pointing out any of our problems? They're here illegally and they're getting all of this money. I mean, you wouldn't believe what Leilani Hart gets, and she has absolutely immigration problems. And that's what I really want to talk about today is Leilani Hart. She's so ungrateful and so mean. She comes, exploits this country, absolutely is a criminal, convicted criminal, allowed to stay even with her immigration problems, and just exploits, exploits, exploits. And then, we're supposed to be grateful that she's a convicted criminal, that she's exploiting and she has attitude and she's mean and she's allowing her family to engage in the worst type of crimes against children. And she's not even reporting on it against each other, the worst kind of crimes, and all, vile and vulgar kind of crimes, vile and vulgar kind of crimes, between the brothers and between the father and the brothers and then with children and then filming the children and you know or having those kind of films, being in possession with those kind of films, and then illegal weapons purchasing, like the laws don't apply to them. And she doesn't have to pay taxes. She gets everything paid for. I mean, thousands of dollars a month she gets. And 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 what does she do? Participate. I mean, she's the prime suspect in Richard's murder case. She's a prime suspect. She's uh, tampering with CID files. She's making El Paso a worse place. Not even trying to give back, just trying to make it a worse place and target Richard, target our family, bully. And who else has she done that to? I mean, I haven't heard one nice thing about her. Just absolute viciousness, absolute viciousness. And she has this long criminal history that goes all the way back before Richard even was born. And she's allowed to stay in this country and she has immigration issues. And then she gets all this money and then she's not even grateful. She's mean. She's mean and she's mad and she's mean. It's like, and she's a prime suspect in the murder of my son, of course, Richard Halliday. But Richard is a whistleblower. He's a U.S. Army soldier, a U.S. Army soldier whistleblower. She's a prime suspect. And see how far it came? They didn't nip it in the bud, and it went far and far and far. And in July 22nd of 2020, she, which really tells me, when was Richard murdered? Because July 22nd, 2020, she was so nervous that she had to confess. She's a mean person. Something really had to have gone wrong and made her lose her mind for her to sign that affidavit and confess, tell what her family was up to, the vile and vulgar crimes, the worst type of crimes against children and each other, right? And that corroborates our one of our um, witnesses that we have that said, "Oh yeah, Dallas Hart was absolutely Richard's platoon leader, and he liked men. He liked men. He didn't like females. He liked men. Um, uh, you know, and he was using other people's computers. He was using other people's computers. So the affidavit um, that Leilani Hart was notarizing has been corroborated. and by other evidence has been corroborated. And for the military leadership not to tell us that Richard's platoon leader, who is a prime suspect in Richard's murder, um, had been implicated by his mother of the worst type of crimes. And he has a record, y'all. He has a long record. And how did he get green to gold then? You see, this is, the hard evidence that we have that, you know, well, they were in possession with films with children. I just feel like on Fort Bliss there was a Epstein, like an Epstein kind of figure, because they were absolutely, I don't know how many times I was told, and about the compromising of soldiers and all of the filming of vile and vulgar illegal behavior, um, that was used to compromise and blackmail, any of these soldiers, to allow the criminal trafficking to operate with impunity, to allow the criminal trafficking to operate with impunity, and to allow all the fishy business with all of these contracts, these multi-million dollar contracts with the military. And so that is really, that's uh, that's a hunt. That's a hunt. Um, so it's really getting to, um, the understanding for everybody. It's becoming very clear what the motives were. The motives were illegal activity to get, these huge contracts, and to also operate their criminal trafficking, be it substances, be it um, human, be it children, uh, oh, human meaning children, or, I was thinking about the females, and, all the weapons, all the equipment, all the vehicles, even. We even have been told that they were even trafficking Humvees, that they could absolutely, with tips of their fingers on computers, they could tamper with inventories, right? So, and we know that there was a lot of fishy business going on because the Afghanistan withdrawal absolutely corroborated what we were being told, that, you know, we when Mealy was telling President Trump that we can't bring home all of the equipment, meaning vehicles and helicopters and night vision goggles, a technology that they didn't have, that we had. Nobody had it. We had it. Um, and they left that there for them to reverse technology, reverse study. Um, it's, and then all the other equipment and guns, all the guns and all the hand grenades and all the C4. Yeah, I can't even tell you all the information that's coming out. It makes you want to throw up because of all of the fraud, waste, and abuse, the absolute grand theft larceny that they were doing, and then cooking the books. And so for for Fort Bliss, in order to do all of that, you had to really compromise everybody. And so, that's where I'm thinking that there's an Epstein like figure on Fort Bliss, that there is like an Epstein like figure. Wouldn't it be something if it was Leilani Hart? It would be something if it was Leilani Hart. Um, yeah, but like a P. Diddy kind of figure, and everything. Because I'm telling you, the testimonies, like with Teresa Chavez, no, Teresa Chavira is just, like one of the latest that we got information from, that, she was, um, yeah, she was pretty popular. She was pretty popular, and even popular with Jesus Eddie. Eddie Nieto. She was pretty popular. And, and so all this friendly connection, and then even family connection. And then, of course, we got all kinds of stories on Leilani Hart. I can't even tell you. It's like, wow, wow, she's the friendliest of them all. She's the friendliest, and, and Kyla Cardona, um, with I like crack. I mean, the theme is, just always is the same thing. Compromise these people and then exploit them. Compromise and exploit, compromise and exploit, and steal the hell out of everything, right? Just it's just the Ten Commandments are being really proven to be the way to go, right? And they just violate, they just use it's just the old playbook, right? And you understand why it didn't take God a lot of commandments, just 10 commandments, pretty easy. I mean, there's 413 laws, right? Because a lot of them are case laws, but they're under the 10 commandments. And of course, the 10 commandments are under the two commandments. And, so they're very easy to learn, right? I mean, it's not like you have buildings and buildings and buildings upon laws. It's very simple because the playbook is always the same way: compromise, exploit, and steal the hell out of everything. Take it. Wealth comes in only like three ways, I think. You either steal it, you either inherit it, or you earn it, right? You either steal it, you inherit it, or you earn it. And it seems like the military with this law enforcement group with Bob Moore's group. It's really Moore's group of El Paso, and it's a hunt that like to manipulate and in order to legally they want to legally steal. They want to legally steal, and they legally steal, but they just can't help it. They're still involved with all this unlawful activity, right? Even though the legally stealing is very gray, right? Because it's unlawful. The way they're doing it is unethical. Um, Absolutely. They just exploit. Um, but they also absolutely can't help themselves. They're just so degenerate that they uh, uh, participate in the criminal trafficking, and also that they have to cover up that they are part of this criminal group. El Paso Matters and El Paso Community Foundation, they put a facade on. They put like they're playing charades. They put a costume on, and they pretend to be something they're not. They pretend to be helping the community um, and being um, benevolent, right? But they're not at all, and you can see that in the community. It's really a psyop. If they were that benevolent, El Paso wouldn't have this kind of problem, right? They wouldn't have all the problems that they have, all the criminal trafficking problems. And we wouldn't have the water, not, I don't want to say that word, but those that are really blocking the fresh flow of water um, in masses and masses. There's so much water, y'all. It's just, and they control this water flow, and so they're controlling the contracts. They're um, they're also inflating the contracts, right? The prices of everything on this contract as an open checkbook, right? They pull the Joe Spencer learned it from somewhere. I don't want nickels and dimes. I want an open checkbook. I want the taxpayers to just give me an open checkbook, and I can make a lot of money off of my crime, off of my crime. And he was absolutely criminal and he needs to be arrested and there needs to be accountability for what he did. It's just sickening. And we're the ones that are really calling for it, really wanting him to have to, um, well, and it's not like personal. It's like, how much of this can El Pasoans take? It's destroying it's destroying America, right? It's going to destroy the community and then it destroys America. You can't keep on doing this open checkbook. You can't keep on doing this grand theft larceny. You can't keep on um you know ex- um compromising everybody and putting them in such a low spot and then exploiting them and think that you're going to have a country left. You just can't do that. And they breach the security and other clever people come in and just stomp on them. And look, Mexico's being just totally the, the CCP is just brutal. And so and then we have those that are coming into this country illegally, not even being grateful, not even being grateful for all of its wealth. And so, that's another thing to deal with on top of the injustices going on in El Paso. And why is there injustice? Well, there's not even a DA there. There's the medical examiner is a fake. The DA is a fake. The El Paso um, magistrate court is fake. I mean, the court itself is not fake, but the individuals are imposters. They're fake. And there's just so much fakeness, right? Like Chavira is fake. Manuel Chavira, the El Paso ISD, he got that position. He got that position with he. I don't know how he can look his men in the eyes straight because they all know what a fraud he is, right? He didn't even have a peace officer's license when he took that position. I mean, it's obvious that there's a cartel link and a wheel and a deal and a seal and a wheel and a deal, to bring him into that position. The El Paso ISD, so an independent school district, which has a lot of contracts, y'all, a lot of contracts. Matter of fact, they built too many schools, right? And so many schools, they had to go over with fancy buses and pick up Mexican students to bring them over to El Paso to put them in the schools. I mean, this is why there's so many school shutdowns right now because the border is secure. They're not allowing this children transfer, and so the schools are not needed. But the taxpayers are still paying for all the bonds it took to build it. So that just displays another point that we're trying to make that El Pasoans were being exploited, and of course with Fort Bliss. The same game. The Fort Bliss was being exploited, and you have the generals in on it because there's no other explanation for their lack of patriot, their lack of duty, for their lack of duty. They're in on it. They're in on the exploitation of our military. They're in on um, targeting and compromising our soldiers so that there's no whistleblowers. And that Richard, that he became a whistleblower, was really an amazing feat because they couldn't compromise him. They couldn't compromise him. Even their fake stories to try to compromise him are so fake. They're so fake. They're like, really? You guys can't even come up with anything better. And of course, because they're not used to it, they can compromise these soldiers so easy, which is really sad. Um, but that's what we were told. But with Richard, they couldn't. They couldn't. He was he's a hero. He's an absolute hero. And uh, so, they just didn't know how to cover this up. It got so messy, so obvious. Um, but they got rid of him. They didn't think that he had any. You see, I'm not a micromanager. I'm not a, believe it or not, I'm not a micromanager, and I trust my children. And Richard is a man. I know the definition of a man, and I know the definition of a woman. And I raised my sons to be men, strong men, and loyal men, and self controlled men, and men that respect women. And I trust them. I don't have to micromanage them. I trust I trust absolutely. They're magnificent. And what do you do anyway when they're all grown up and they have their lives? They've got to make their way then. And sure, they're going to make a mistake. Who hasn't? Who hasn't, right? And so, with Richard, it was like they were telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, you guys are absolutely insane. Who cares? Where is he? We can deal with all of that later if you just tell me where he is. We got to find him. We're talking about his life, his breath. And something is really stinky here, and I think there's foul play. We thought there was foul play from the very beginning. And it was just an absolutely horrible thing because they knew it, and we know now that they knew it, and we know that Bob Moore knew it, that Bob Moore even targeted Richard because of his whistleblowing and did not report on his whistleblowing, what was going on Fort Bliss. He's just such a scoundrel. He's been in on it from the very beginning. And that's why he can't report on anything on Richard that's trustworthy because he was in on it. He's part of the criminal group that targeted Richard. He didn't report on Leilani Hart's July 22nd, 2020 affidavit that is just like wowzer. It's kind of like the country didn't want to report on Hunter Biden's laptop. I mean, that's a comparison of her affidavit. I mean, it was explosive. It is explosive, and we have it. We have the file numbers. And Bob Moore didn't want to report on it, and yet he was in constant uh, uh, um, connection with her because then he fabricated with her some kind of uh, absolutely insane false story and used her, a convicted criminal, with a July 22, 2020. So just in that same period, the most explosive affidavit. I mean, how stupid, he's just, uh, how much, he doesn't have any credibility left. He doesn't have any credibility left at all. He's a total criminal. Using Leilani Hart, convicted criminal, Dallas Hart's mother, and they're all connected family wise. I mean, he's connected to A&R Chavira, that shows that they were absolutely targeting Richard from the very beginning. And and in family connection with Manuel Chavira and his wife Teresa Chavira, and then that leads to Moya, Willie Moya, not the Willy Wonka chocolate factory, but Willie Moya, the absolute head of the cartel right over the border that was just ruthless. I mean, and he met a very ruthless death. And Bob Moore's not reporting on this because he's part of that family group. He's part of the family with Chavira, with Willie Moya, with Arturo Alba, with Texas Ranger, who just happened to be the one that was assigned to our case, Gustavo Sanchez. And they have apps, all of them, that whole group that was targeting us, that was so vile and vulgar. They are all Bob Moore's group, and Veronica Escobar, of course, is part of Bob Moore's group with Bill Hicks, and yeah, he's not reporting on Michael Maiella's family being, part of Patrick Crucis's family. I mean, they were there not to, and I'm thinking about Bob Moore and Kathleen Gannon right now. They were there in the media not to report the news, but to absolutely affect policy, to absolutely affect legal cases, judicial cases, criminal cases, and to profit off of manipulating cases and affecting policies and elections and elections. That's what they were there. They were totally, and they did it with a 501c3. I mean, that's what I'm saying. They're just mean. They don't even want to pay taxes on their crime. They, on their con job crime. They're just mean. They just want to exploit as much as they can and be so ungrateful. Be so ungrateful. So, it's all coming together. We've had enough for a long time, but, we'll keep on going to get more and more and more. And there's clarity with this. And I think people are starting to understand it because they're seeing what's happening in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is a diversion. It's really happening. It's really awful. It's very terrible. But because President Trump is absolutely with Pam Bondi, with Kash Patel, with Dan Bongino, and we have confirmation of this with Tom Homan, with so many others, that they're absolutely investigating and they're getting accountability. Now, we'll see. We'll see because there's, you know, there's, this is like a hurdle of so many different obstacles. So, yeah, we are patient and we're going to keep on doing the investigation and we are going to, and every day we're discovering something new. Um, Las Vegas, can't forget Las Vegas. And so, this was a motherload of crimes and we're going through it. The Chavira auto group is one of them. And it really, when you think about it, it's like, oh my gosh, you knew right from December of 2019, they were already targeting Richard. They already were targeting him, and they were absolutely going to silence him as a whistleblower. And they pulled all, they just tried to pull all the stops and go after him. So, thank you so much for coming on. Please share that information because we need to get accountability and we want our son's remains. So please share, and we will be back tomorrow. And if you have any tips, because we're getting so many tips in, you can call 941-677-0060, and that will really help. Thank you so much. God bless you. And yeah, we couldn't do this without you. We love you.